Hello, everyone. So welcome to the final week. This is an integration week. So it's about reviewing and recollecting, like recollecting, um, all of your individual and collective learning for this class. So as such, there's no new reading or viewing, and the tasks are really to give you an opportunity to put together all the various pieces that we've covered into a meaningful whole. So I want to, in this video, just kind of go back to the big picture of what this course is intended to do. Well, four major learning objectives. The first is to, particularly on the history and foundations piece of the class, to articulate the past and ongoing development of expressive arts therapy as a specific field among the creative arts therapies and within mental health practice. So what we focused on in this class to meet this goal would be all the website visits and all the readings. Primarily give you that information about the development. First, following the intensive, focusing on the emergence of expressive arts as a field, and then looking at each of the individual 5 major divisions of creative arts therapies. And so there's so much material there. If you perceive this week, the reading, as such, is to just catch up on any reading. So this is a good week before you move on with your other classes and have the winter break to pick up any things that you really wanted to read, but you just didn't have time to. I realize what an intense workload this is. So I invite you this week to go back and fill in any gaps or satisfy any desires for a reading or looking more into a particular website from any of the past 6 classes, so expressive arts therapy through all the creative arts therapies, that you just didn't have the bandwidth to take in. So maybe, pick a couple things that will really feed you at this time. The next 2 learning objectives relate to demonstrating beginning levels of expressive arts therapy skills and demonstrating sensitivity to differences in artistic and cultural differences using the addressing model. So the vehicle for learning and applying that has primarily been our narrative video practice and sharing. So by yourself creating and sharing a personal video, everyone did demonstrate the beginning levels of expressive arts therapy skills in terms of applying the work to yourself and reflecting on it. These videos also have lots of opportunities to reflect on differences in artistic and cultural exposure in our backgrounds and our educations and our work. And what I invite you to do this, and then there's also the other component that many of you practiced in different ways, and I really appreciate the variety, is aesthetic responding practices. So carrying on analog and hand-drawn and studio-created aesthetic responses that were then shared online, and also kind of spontaneous, straight into canvas responses. So there was some innovation in terms of how we use our current learning modes to share with each other aesthetically. So that's another way that I notice you demonstrating those beginning level skills. The role that you, in this case, the roles that maybe be manifest that I want to make explicit would be in doing the work yourself and putting out your own narrative, just like I did in the intensive. That's really myself doing my own work. So in a way, if this were in therapeutic, the therapeutic communication and multicultural counseling class, I would put myself in the client position, developing my own narrative, doing my own work, resourcing myself, and composing it and sharing it is really the kind of a position that clients who would come to see us as practitioners would be in. Just to give you an opportunity to reflect on that. And then when we're witnesses to someone else's video, as you were witnesses to my live and the other faculty narratives live, that really puts you in the other side of that dyad, where you're using your listening skills and your attunement and being able to notice how that is affecting you, which I think is the primary position of expressive arts therapy skill building and therapeutic communication. So we practice that very carefully by being very sensitive to what people shared and responding first from our hearts and also from our heads and making intellectual connections, and then also resourcing our gut level response. I think as a clinician, integrating those various faculties of sensitivity and responsiveness, each of those, and just to use that particular rubric that we use in this course, that heart, mind, gut, that gives us more of an integral position when we're in the therapist, witness, and receiver mode. And I know that we practice that here. So with that said, I invite you to take some time this week and review your own, maybe look at your own video, your own narrative again, but certainly take some time to look at what you shared in discussions and what you wrote in your own journals. There's an opportunity now to integrate what you've been through over the last 6 weeks of this class, and perhaps it will speak to you. And it could speak to these particular learning goals, but I'm sure there's much more information there that you can harvest. The last learning goal for this class is to begin to create a professional identity that's inclusive of a wide range of expressive arts forms and ongoing individual arts practice. So the reason we focused on weekly touching on different modalities is so that we can all, at the end of this class, say that we have exposed ourselves and reflected on different modalities of expression, different media. I notice in reflection that a lot of folks took they noticed and were in part of the discussions in the journals were like, oh, I'm noticing this modality affects me this way, and that's different than that modality that we did last week. And so kind of give yourself some time this week to integrate that. The method for the integration for this class will be the same method that we've been exploring each week. So this week, there isn't a video share from students. Instead, I invite you to just begin the discussion whenever you can. And throughout this week, allow your group that has been together in this way and learning this way to relate to each other. And so there is a group discussion with the same groups to have one last interaction with each other. I trust that each group can generate and share what's most meaningful for them, and that each of you individually will contribute and say what you want to say to this small group of peers who have been with you learning in this way in this class. This is your final discussion for this class and this learning cycle. So I trust that you know ways to make that meaningful. Just to give myself some consciousness of it, I did provide some prompts in the heart, mind, and gut mode, and you'll find those on the group discussion pages. But essentially, it's from the heart. How have the people in this group affected you? And to speak from the heart. About it's a reflection on the process of discussion and sharing. You've all heard each other's personal narratives. You've all shared a lot over the last 6 weeks in learning online. So really celebrate that and relate to each other from the heart. From the mind, it's in what ways do you see yourself reflected in the professional world of expressive arts and creative arts therapy? So, for myself, I like mind mapping, and as I learn this material and as I get it, I'm always trying to see, well, are these people that I want to talk more with? That I keep saying, like, I've identified certain people that I'm following their scholarship, and I'm following on Facebook, and I'm following online, and I want to see them at conferences. So, where are those connections for you? So after speaking from the heart, I also, to make that connection to your mental mapping. What's there for you? What areas of this field that we've now surveyed of the creative arts therapies and expressive arts? What are calling to you? Where do you find yourself comfortable and already at home? What are the foreign places? What are the foreboding places? Do you feel excluded from certain places? So this is a chance in your discussion to voice some perspectives that you're generating right now and put that out there. And also, because in the group discussion, I'm going to invite you to give each other feedback. You can reinforce and offer additional areas where you see each other's potential in the field. You've gotten to know each other well, so this is a chance to share out. Oh, I really, you really made an impression on me by talking this way, and I know you know a lot about this. So, definitely, I hope that you get involved with that organization. Maybe go to their conference. I'd really be curious to hear, the work that you're going to do in that world. And finally, your intuitive, visceral responses and questions. So sharing it with each other. What questions are you leaving this class with? I spoke at the intensive about, we approached what is expressive arts therapy as a question, and it's not about my answer. It's not about any empirical answer to that question. It's a generative question. So at this point, what are you holding around that question, and what additional questions will help you seek that response? So that's the discussion. And in the journal, I invite you to do one final journal entry specifically around that, what is expressive arts therapy question for you. So how are you responding to this question with the people in your life, immediate life, your family, your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers, people on the street, and in your social networks? Who knows you're in this program? What are you saying now? And how has that changed in the last 2 months or so, or the last 3 months? What do you notice that you're answering that question differently now than when we started together? So just a chance to reflect on that, knowing that there are no right answers to this question. I'm really curious and to see how you're applying what you're taking away from this class to your real life. How do you further define the meaning of the use of the arts in therapy at this point? What are you taking away? What excites you? What challenges you about what you've seen, learned from the field, what you've gotten from your peers, anything that I've shared? Describe, again, just kind of a place to note the questions that you're taking away. I have this sense of what, we're ending this class now, and the next class in this series is the Psychological Assessment and Creative Arts Therapy course next semester in the spring. What questions will tide you over until then? So in both the discussion and the journal, I'm very much encouraging you to speak to those things in language, poetic and otherwise, discursive language we could say, and also to use imagery, use the modality that speaks to these questions, that helps you express what it is, the truth for you around all of these prompts, and what's true for you about the experience of this class with each other in the discussion. The journal is something I'm reading and enjoying and giving feedback on, but the journal and all the discussion is really for you and as a way, again, of integrating your own learning. So finally, your last task for this class, so those are the learnings that we do in the same cycle as always this week. Finally, you have a final written assignment, and on the week 10 page, it's called the Arts Practice Proposal, and in the I'll be posting a detailed outline of what that means. But it's essentially it's the profile of an emerging expressive arts therapist. That's the poetic title for it, because it's noticing that you're emerging into a new identity through participation in this program, and the requirement that we're speaking to is the arts practice, the personal arts practice. So I'll be providing some prompts for you to write about, and you'll have a couple weeks, 3 weeks from today. This is Friday, November 3rd. To submit your written paper. It's a short 3 to 5 page reflection. You'll have no trouble putting that together. It's really a chance for you to articulate what you're inspired to do, what you feel you have background in, and what's accessible and realistic in the near future. So reflecting on some of those discussions and questions we posed during the intensive. And remember, so I invite you to remember and look at your notes from that conversation from our second day of class at the intensive in Area 5. So that is all. It is. I know it's been a lot. I really I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the expansiveness of my mind, from the murky, gooey weirdness, herk and jerks of my gut, my whole self. Really, I want to use the word love. I love this work, and I'm so honored to be part of your entry into the field. And so it's been a pleasure, and stay in touch. We'll reconnect at the next intensive. Please reach out to me individually if you have any questions. If you want to continue to offer direct or indirect feedback about the course, you can do so just by reaching out to me directly, or you can give some feedback to the student reps and they can share it anonymously. You'll have a online course evaluation. You can fill that in, but it may not capture everything that you want to share. So yeah, just reach out as you feel is helpful to you. And if you have any questions about the arts practice proposal and putting that together over the next couple of weeks, probably shoot me an email with your question, and if we can either respond by email or we can talk about it. And you might want to use each other. So I want to remind you that we made that connection the final day of the intensive with one other person in the program. It may not be somebody in the Mahoganies, it might be somebody in Eucalyptus, but if there's somebody that you want to bounce some feedback off of, this is not an individual sport, so feel free to get feedback on your arts practice proposal. You might want to include that in your discussion journal, anything like that. It's really open. So that's 20 minutes, my longest video yet. Signing off. Take good care. Good luck in all you do.